Hey guys, so today's video is a downhill skateboarding progression roadmap. So what this is a basic roadmap for learning how to downhill skate with skill and gear checkpoints. Essentially, it should be a list that you can refer to as a rider to let you know where you stand and where to go next. And it's going to have like different skills you should learn, the type of gear you should be investing in at a certain point. And of course, this isn't an accurate reflection of all experienced skaters' journey. In fact, my experience as a skater has been quite different from the list. It's just something to refer to and should be helpful to a lot of people out there. So yeah, check it out. As well, this list is not going to be in-depth, it's just going to be a guideline, and I am going to use this list to create further in-depth guides, in-depth articles and videos to help you guys at each stage of the journey. And as always, there's an in-depth article linked in the description, and this article might be a bit easier to follow in terms of finding the articles, as everything is going to be linked and the videos as well, so highly recommend you check it out, link in the description. And a bit of a disclaimer as well, it should be said it's up to you to find the necessary roads, the safe environment that will facilitate the learning of these skills. It's going to be up to you to find the gear, purchase it, find your community, all that good stuff. I'm just here to point out one or two things to you. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that you need to learn is the basics. Just simply the basics of skateboarding, which is learning to push, learning to curve, learning to cruise, learning to foot brake, and simply being comfortable on your board. And once you're comfortable on your board, once you can foot brake, then you can move on to learning to slide. And having these skills is really key and clutch to sort of not limiting your progression and can only really help you in the long run. So at this point, the type of gear you should have doesn't really matter. Most boards are going to be okay to learn the basics. When it's time to move on, you should move on when you feel confident, when you can turn left and right consistently, when you can foot brake, when you can do hard curves, basically when you start to feel very comfortable on board. Now the next step, or rather step 1.1, isn't super necessary, but it's going to be extremely helpful when it's time to slide. So I call this step the before you try sliding checklist. So it consists of getting comfortable squatting on your board in the box position, or rather the position needed for hillside slides, and this will allow you to find out if your flexibility is an issue. If your flexibility is an issue, it might hinder your progress with hillside stuff, but it is something that you can work on. The next thing is getting the foot positioning right, whether that's the hillside foot positions or the toe side foot positions. The next thing you can practice is hand drag carving, which is essentially like carving as though you have a hand down and getting as low as possible, and doing that heel side and then toe side, and then simply learning to get low and either grabbing rail on your board with both knees forward, no stink bug or anything like that. So in terms of gear, you absolutely need a helmet and slide gloves. Things like knee pads, elbow pads and hip pads will be very useful too, as you are likely going to fall. And when should you move on? You should move on when you feel confident and comfortable doing these things. And the truth is, you might have to revisit a lot of these steps as you're learning to slide. I even find myself doing these things. I use a lot of them to warm up. Yeah, it just allows me to feel more comfortable on a new board, or I want to shake off the cobwebs and feel a bit more comfortable, and yeah, stuff like that. Okay, so the next step is step 1.2. It's not super necessary, but it's super useful for when you inevitably fall. And what this step is, learning how to fall and use your protective gear. It may not seem obvious, but there is a technique to it. For example, catching yourself with slide gloves and riding out the speed on your gloves plus feet is a little bit trickier than it looks. It's something that you have to practice. At this stage, you need, in terms of gear, a helmet, slide gloves, and you need your knee, elbow and hip pads, as they will be necessary to practice some of these techniques. And you should move on after getting an idea of how these techniques work and how to sort of catch yourself. You're going to have plenty of time to practice these when you're learning slides. You're going to fall a lot. It's inevitable. Everybody falls. You're going to fall. And yeah. Okay, let's finally move on to step 2. So what is step 2? Step 2 is learning how to shutdown slide. Now, a shutdown slide is basically a two-handed push-up slide or a command slide, depending on what you're comfortable with as a rider. Now, why I say you must learn a shutdown slide is they're critical for emergencies or when you simply lose confidence when going down a hill. This type of slide and foot braking are key for ultimately learning how to slide. Why is this so? So you might get hurt if you can't stop on the steep hills you need to go to learn to slide effectively. Otherwise, you'd be limited to hills that may not be fast enough or steep enough for you to learn to slide. Also, if you can't stop on command, you're simply endangering yourself and other people on the hill. So yeah, learning to shut down slide is key. to a good time. So in terms of gear, you need at minimum a board, of course, a helmet, and slide gloves. I also say that freeride wheels, or rather wheels with a rounded lip that are going to be easier to slide, are going to be helpful at this stage as well. When should you move on from learning how to shutdown slide? After sort of getting an idea of the technique and sort of getting to grips with it, you're going to have plenty of time to practice this. When you're actually learning to slide, you're going to lose confidence and you're going to have to shutdown slide a lot, so you simply are going to get pretty good at it. Now it's time for you to learn pendulum slides and maybe 180-degree stand-up slides. Now with the stand-up slides, you don't have to learn them just yet. You can postpone them for as long as you like and maybe revisit them later when you want a bit of a challenge, but this is a good point to learn them as well. Now in this section, you're going to learn pendulum slides, you're going to learn 180-degree stand-up slides, but as I've said, not necessary. And after learning pendis, you're going to be able to make it down most hills. Also, a quick tip, if you are learning 180-degree stand-up slides, I do recommend you learn riding in switch a little bit, as it's going to make it quite easy to catch the 180-degree slide and sort of maybe bring it back as well. In terms of speed, you're likely going to be hitting speeds anywhere from 15 to 30 miles per hour pretty often, and don't pressure yourself to go any faster and don't go faster than you can stop. In terms of gear, you're definitely going to need slide gloves. Most boards are going to be okay, but specialized downhill boards with the rounded lips, or rather freeride wheels, are going to be best for easy sliding. Helmets, of course, are a must, and protective gear like knee pads, hip pads, and elbow pads are good too. And you should move on when you can consistently do your pendulum slides, when you can rely on them to get you down the hill safely. So now the next stage is learning to grip corners and simply go around them effectively. Understanding this will be important for safe open road skating further down the line and simply being a more proficient skater. And now, since you can stop consistently with your pendulum slides, it's also a good time to learn how to tuck as well. Tucking will make you go significantly quicker down your hills, so if you want to go fast, tucking is a must. And in this step, you're going to learn how to grip corners. You're going to learn about the outside, inside, outside principle, as it's clutch to gripping corners. You're going to learn how to take a late apex. You're going to learn how to tuck, and after learning things, you're going to be able to hit most hills okay, and you're going to be able to slow down before corners and go around them safely. So in terms of speed, you're likely going to be hitting that 20 to 30 mile per hour mark pretty often and really getting comfortable at those sorts of speeds. As always, don't pressure yourself to go faster and don't go faster than you can stop. In terms of gear, you're going to be riding the same gear as above. Maybe you might have different bushings and, it might be time to get 45-degree-ish trucks, between 40 to 45 degrees if you haven't already. Always feel free to experiment further with gear if you want to, but it's not super necessary. You should move on once you can late apex consistently and consistently be able to roughly judge how much speed you need to make it around a corner. And in terms of your tuck, your tuck form probably wouldn't be very good at this stage, but this is something that will constantly improve with time and you'll always be working on it. Even after like 5 years or 4 years or 6 years, I don't know how long, of downhill skating, I'm still working on my tuck and trying to improve it. It's just something that it always improves. And finally, you could probably attend your first event at this point. So step 5 is the predrifts and learning how to toe side and hillside predrift. You could also likely learn stand-up slides at this point too, if you have learned 180-degree slides, but they can come before this or after. It just depends on what you want to do as a rider. So in this step, you're going to learn how to toe side and hillside predrift, and after learning this, you'll be able to make it down most hills. But you're not really going to be able to hit any mountain passes or any truly dangerous roads yet. And as always use spotters and stuff if you're skating dangerous roads. And after you get your pre-drifts down, you're basically a fully fledged downhill skateboarder. So in terms of speed, you're likely going to be skating speeds from about 25 to 40 miles per hour more frequently. And as always, don't go faster than you're comfortable with. Don't pressure yourself to go faster, and make sure you have the right gear before really sending it and really going much quicker. In terms of gear, your bushings must be specialized to your weight. Of course, the gear from above carries forward, and feel free to experiment further with gear if you want to. For example, you might want to change trucks or try a different brand or something, try different angles. Maybe you might start experimenting with split angle trucks, different bushings, all that sorts of stuff. You should move on once you can consistently pre-drift and not flat spot your wheels. I know that's a challenge for a lot of you. Now, this next step is simply perfecting your toe side and hillside pre-drifts and the other slides from above. So in this step, you're going to really be focusing on your form and controlling the slides, getting them super consistent and being able to reliably pull them off with a lot of control. At this stage, you'll also be experimenting with a lot of gear. if you've been mainly riding like free ride wheels like Powell Snakes or other wheels with a rounded lip, you're gonna maybe now go on to square lipped wheels and even eventually work your way up to race wheels and just sort of getting comfortable using them. In terms of time, you're going to be here for months, maybe even years. In terms of speed, you'll likely be skating speeds between 25 to 50 mile per hour, maybe even 60, who knows. But as always, don't go faster than you're comfortable with, and always make sure you have the right gear before trying to go really fast. And in terms of gear, you'll be mainly skating the same gear, but like as I said, you might be progressing from free ride wheels to square lipped wheels to really grippy race wheels. And I really urge you to, at this stage, if you haven't already, start experimenting with gear a lot. Split angle setups, different bushings, maybe pick up your first set of precision trucks, or if it's more affordable for you, forged trucks. And this might even be the best time for you to start hitting events and all that good stuff. Only a full face helmet at this stage would be a wise investment. You're going to be hitting speeds above 30 mile per hour pretty frequently, so having a full face at that speed is going to be better for your safety. And when should you move on from this stage? Personally, I'm not really sure once someone should move on. Maybe like once things start to get easy, but really there's not really anywhere else to move on to. Like, there are next steps that I'm going to talk about, but this is kind of it. You're a fully fledged downhill skater, so kind of do what it is that you want to do. So step 7 is advanced stuff, and now you're going to go into the type of riding or the type of skill that you really like. Maybe that's more stand-up slides. You're going to be going bigger, doing faster stand-up slides and all that stuff. Maybe you're just going to start focusing on becoming a better hands-down rider, having more finesse and controlling your slides, taking better lines. Maybe you'll go into racing, maybe you'll go into social media. I don't know, dude. Step 8 is going pro. Well, pro just means you might be good at racing. Maybe you skate very fast regularly. Maybe you're a sponsored skater. Maybe you put pro in your social media account. It doesn't really mean anything for downhill skating at the moment, but hopefully that changes. So what do you guys think? Is this downhill skateboarding progression map helpful? What are your thoughts? Do you have anything you'd like to add? Of course, it's not perfect, and I'm very open to seeing suggestions from other riders or their own progressions and all that good stuff. So if yours is different, comment below. If you have anything else to say, comment below. Big thanks to all my patrons. I posted information about this video and the article in like different Facebook groups, longboard family, what gear should I buy, also posted it on Reddit, and a lot of people contributed their ideas. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for contributing to this. I think this is going to be very helpful to a lot of beginner downhill skateboarders out there, and thanks. Also, big thanks to all the subscribers and everybody who watches this. If you like the video, comment below or whatever, like, thumbs up, share it, whatever. Tell your mom, said hi. I don't know, man. Whatever. So thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next one.